What's up, guys and gals of the movement world? It's Sean Mishka, the Movement Miyagi, coming to you once again on behalf of Football Beyond the Stats and our movement play of the week for the 2023 National Football League season. This week, week 3 of the NFL campaign. And this one is going to be a doozy. Again, probably comes as no shock or surprise, at least as to what game we were selecting from. There was just no way, shape, or form to not select a Miami Dolphin based on their week 3 performance collectively, holistically as a unit, putting up 70 points, 7 touchdowns, 700 plus yards against the Denver Broncos on Sunday in Miami. So we're going to get into Achane, I believe is how you pronounce his name. Achane, number 28, running back, kind of do all everything performer and weapon for the Miami Dolphins, rookie third round draft pick out of Texas A&M. And we're going to get into a little bit more about that. Again, his movement form of life, his history, who he is, what makes him tick as a mover, and maybe some of the things that we were able to see. But we're going to select one play in particular, this one from the third quarter. Even though he scored 4 times, yes, 2 receiving and 2 rushing on Sunday, and this should come as no shock or surprise because the Dolphins scored 10 times. So those touchdowns had to be dispersed somewhere. Achane was one of those recipients of 4 of those pay dirt visits. But this play, the one that I felt as though was the display and expression of the most skillful or dexterous of movement from Achane, actually didn't go for a touchdown. However, I think you're going to see why we ended up selecting it. Not only was it a tremendous poster that I think we will point attention to, but there's some things that Achane showed here that maybe shows that he's a little bit more than just a speedster. He's a little bit more than just a burner. So let's get into this play, see if we can see it from a number of perspectives. First and foremost, he's the ball carrier that's coming in motion on that jet type action here. And of course, when we talk about somebody being quick as a hiccup, we're talking about Achane. And you're going to about to see that from him, not only on this play, but then also if you were to watch all of his highlights. And I would definitely recommend clicking on this highlight link here from NFL Study, which we're taking this highlight clip from. Let's watch it a few more times through. So if you haven't seen it, you can kind of wrap your head around some of the movement magic that Achane laid down at Hard Rock Stadium on Sunday against the Broncos. And then, of course, we will get into it at half speed here momentarily. We also, as we typically do, we'll try to highlight who Achane is as a mover, his form of life, and everything that makes him tick, at least from my perspective. Now, I want to give the caveat first and foremost here, guys and gals, before we dive into this at 50% speed. I am and was very unfamiliar with Achane's game and craft. I, as some of you might know, don't have the opportunity to watch a tremendous amount of college football just because I'm so much immersed in the National Football League. So I had to go back and really watch a bunch of his highlights. So I haven't gotten to see many of the gaps or the weaknesses that are within Achane's skill set nearly as much as I would have, say, maybe last week with a Bijan Robinson, who even though he's also a rookie, the first running back selected in this year's draft, whereas Achane was a third round draft pick, the 6th running back selected in the draft. I had seen Bijan and followed what he was doing and really what he was about at a much deeper level. Or maybe someone that has already been in the league for a significant period of time, maybe a Christian McCaffrey, who I've, again, dove into the goods and the bads, the positives and the negatives, the strengths and the weaknesses much, much deeper. Here with Achane, I've gotten a very surface view. And of course, that can lead to a relatively limited perspective as to how someone might be equipped to solve problems on an NFL Sunday. But I think even by diving into about 30 to 45 minutes of film study on him from his time at Texas A&M, I do have a pretty good idea as to some of the things that allow him to do what he does, speed being one of them. But it's not just linear speed. Yes, the dude was an All-American in 2021. Second team All-American in the, I want to say the 100 and 200. I know his 100-meter PR is 10:14, which is obviously not just a nice leisurely stroll in the park. This dude is world-class fast, right? And that's world-class on a track. And you guys have heard me talk in the past when we're discussing players about their world-class speed for football at their position. We're talking about game speed, the complete movement problem solving process. And I saw some things about Devon Achane that we want to point out here today. So I wanted to set that precedence before we really get into the slow motion. The other thing that I want to tell you guys here is, let's remember, like, this is occurring in Miami in mid-September, so it's hotter than a pistol here. I think the real temp was something like 95 degrees, so it felt like 95. And of course, it's Miami, Florida, so it's humid. And it's on grass. Now, if this would have been happening, this game would have been taking place in Denver, in altitude on grass, that maybe they could have grown a little bit longer in order to try to slow some of these speedsters for the Miami Dolphins down. Maybe they wouldn't have eclipsed the 70-point or 700-yard mark. But then again, maybe they would, because Mike McDaniel, offensive mastermind and head coach for the Miami Dolphins, was up in his bag on Sunday, as the kids would say, right? So let's take Achane again here, coming on the jet sweep or more sweep type of action and motion. And the one thing that I'll say from Achane is, even though he is a speedster, and we typically would find those speedsters, and I'm talking early Tyreek Hill, and of course Tyreek Hill's on the field here for the Miami Dolphins, and even though when we look at like a guy like a Raheem Mostert, who was on the fake here, he's number 31 for the Miami Dolphins. I mean, this team is built on speed, and both Tyreek Hill and Raheem Mostert have that same type of speed that Achane does, who has the ball here. But the thing that we found from a Tyreek Hill early on was he might have just relied on a little bit too much. The same thing with a Raheem Mostert. And the same thing when we look at most speedsters earlier in their career, before they can really get a functional fit with the unfolding complex problems in the National Football League. But the thing about Achane, and maybe some of this is the opponent he was facing, the Denver Broncos, left a little bit to be desired here. We would see from Achane that he often is very perceptually attuned and sensitive, not only to opening and closing gaps and how big those gaps might be versus his relation to them, how much he has to hit the gas pedal in order to get to it or through it, but also remaining open and responsive to potential ways of acting based on immediate the behaviors of immediate defenders. Okay, so his opponents, and I just wanted to kind of illustrate or draw some of that out, because typically we wouldn't find this from guys who are very straight line fast, particularly those who have spent a lot of time in track and field. Achane himself was Gatorade high school player of the year, or sprinter of the year, track and field athlete of the year in Texas when he was in high school. So we're talking about a guy whose form of life is based on speed to a certain degree. But he's not just a track athlete. He's not just a straight line sprinter. In fact, you can see him numerous times change his path and change his movement strategy on the fly based on what is there and what's unfolding and emerging. And you can even see it here as he aims to go east to west. Now, granted, because of his action capabilities, he has greater acceleration to be able to cover more ground laterally east to west, right? Even though he's running pretty much straight to the sideline, he's running around straight west here. But he knows what his relationship is to the unfolding problem and what kind of gas pedal he needs to have. He's not always on the gas pedal at maximum speed. He's moving in a way that allows him to solve that problem, and also based on the success of affordance. He knows here if he went as fast as he possibly could uh, to beat the angle of this defender that comes free, he would get moving too quickly here to not be able to turn this corner in a curvilinear fashion as he does right here and keep himself connected to the problem, but open and responsive to what he may have to do. And so I actually see a bit of maturity from a Devon Achane here, where he's, even though his action capabilities are much, much greater than anyone else playing defense for the Denver Broncos, at least when it comes to hitting the gas pedal and what kind of gas pedal is there, he is not always on it, and he moves in a way that allows him to control his movement based on what it is that is unfolding in front of him. And he is often looking downfield as he's moving in that gas pedal and when he's on that gas pedal. Now, I haven't seen enough from him to know that if across situations, so more so in between the tackles, even though we saw some of those things from him on Sunday. But granted, he had 18 carries for 203 yards. That's 11.3 per. And, a lot of times Mike McDaniel, like I said, he was in his bag. So he was finding ways to manufacture touches for Achane here that allowed him to get in space and use his skill set. But more so when Achane gets across situations is where the true dexterity will be tested to see who he really is as a mover. But we see some things here. You can even tell, even though he's moving at slow motion, right? He's at 50% speed and he's still moving at a pretty good clip. You can see how he kind of has this gallop and gather to get himself moving from east to west to north to south. Okay. And he's able to do that while still perceiving the affordances, and I keep going back here, meaning the opportunities to act as to what might exist out in front of him and around him, potentially in his periphery. We do actually see him look and glance at guys really quickly and really rapidly to try to detect information also. A little bit seen on this play as we're about to find out, but even across plays, you would find that from him. Now, a few things, like I said, he is often very sensitive and attuned to what's really unfolding, maybe here in this case. But I will say that because he has such a special gas pedal, and because his acceleration capabilities and ultimately his speed output is much, much higher than everybody else, he often closes space really rapidly. And all of a sudden, a guy's like up in his shit, up in his grill, like really, really quickly. And I think it sometimes even takes him by surprise how fast he is in comparison to others. So you'll see that interpersonal distance, he gets really tight to whether it's a teammate or an opponent. We're about to find that out in a bit here too. So, but you can see here that if he were on the gas pedal too much and he were not staying open and responsive or intentional about what is emerging, he wouldn't be able to just move around some of this. Okay. And this, you're going to see this from a different view later on, like this cat who's just falling and tripping over himself. But look at where Achane wants to move and go here. He just finds a strategy, finds a solution that can be adaptively and functionally fit to this problem. We don't always see that from speedsters. A lot of times speedsters are so focused on like their form of life being about that gas pedal that they would run right into guys or right into oncoming traffic essentially. And we don't see that from Achane here. Now, granted, it's 35-13. Achane is already in the third quarter here, probably in his rhythm, kind of has found his way in his fit. But look at the curvilinear. Now, remember, he's going and turning to his right initially. He has this gallop step here. And all of these things are very trainable qualities, guys and gals. And those are things that I want you guys to kind of remember. He's moving here now towards his right. And look at him. I want to show this. go right into this left curvilinear action. So he right here kind of slaloming in this snake weaving type of action, but it's all in relation. It's not in relation to cones. It's not in relation to moving around the maybe the hashes or the yard signifiers or markers, right? He's doing it in relation to freaking humans, okay? Humans that are changing their behaviors in relation to this problem. And these are things that I want you guys to think about. This is still a really highly complex, very alive movement problem. And he's able to cross over, move from one corner and turning to the other corner and turning, which is extraordinarily impressive. And he's doing it through and around a bunch of Denver Bronco bodies that are moving in relation to him. Okay. That's simply put here what makes this so impressive, what he's able to do, but also how he's doing it. Okay. And in relation to what? What does he do it in relation to? A bunch of Denver Broncos that end up on his poster, as you're about to see in the feature picture for this week, one that has now been circulating across the internet. Okay. And you can see as soon as he goes and solves these successive movement problems, remember, always simultaneous affordances, always successive affordances. How you solve one problem, there's always going to be another problem continuously connected to that our perceptions, intentions, and actions will be perpetually feeding into or from. Okay. And that's the thing. And that's the reason why I paused it right here. Let me see if we can get to the step, a couple steps right before it. As he moves from right to left and left to right, and then feels 41's tackle attempt here, he's actually like on the gas pedal enough because he feels this haptic sense in relationship to this. And he comes out of it out of balance and trying to find his balance. But watch what happens as this left foot goes down and he goes from left to right here. Watch in relation to his perceptual pickup, his information detection, because there's a very important problem that lies right here in front of him that is going to dictate where it is as well as how it is he might be able to go. You can see he's already kind of anticipating in a perspective control type of fashion that he's going to have to keep turning to his left in some way, shape, or form. He feels this problem behind him, but he knows that he also has to stay open and responsive to potentially head forward or maybe even head behind. And now I think that becomes an affordance that he probably doesn't pick up here. But I want you guys to watch this very next frame. If we can get it to go there, look at how he actually gathers himself, catches his balance, gathers himself, and immediately has the perceptual pickup of what is actually unfolding. Guys, this is special stuff here because oftentimes these guys who are trying to regain their balance and they're just trying to gather their steps, they're going to run right into the back of their own offensive lineman or right up into that dyadic relationship. This defensive player, this wannabe tackler hitting the deck and in relation to his teammate, right? But not here with Devon Achane. That quick perceptual pickup gives them a really quick, really rapid, and I'm sorry about that, really rapid response. Okay. And that rapid response is not a reaction. It is an open, responsive, adaptable response. Okay. And it is stemming from his intentions. Obviously, pick up as many yards as you can, but remain open to going left or right, feeding into his potential strategies or his actions from this perceptual pickup that we're about to see. Okay. Well, let's watch it as the 41 tackle attempt here. Boom, head right back up. And think about how rapidly he's able to detect the information that we see here. Okay. this dyadic relationship, but he's able to pick up this defender going low. Okay. At least hypothetically. And again, we're always hypothesizing about this, right? Like we're always theorizing about what might be unfolding here. And then, of course, his own teammate. Now, we don't know what perceptual information he is truly picking up, what information he's detecting, what informational variables, whether it's teammate or opponent, whether it's the gap potentially that does exist over here. Okay. It could be simultaneous. It could be a number of different multimodal, if you want to think about it like that. There's a number of potential information sources. But the only thing that we have to be aware of is that because of his perceptual attunement and sensitivity, he then is able to organize that action that allows him to sidestep that local movement problem. Okay. That what is that chaos, that perturbation right here in that really special high speed left or right to left speed cut, jump cut type of hybrid. And that's no joke to be able to do that at that type of speed. And then we see his perceptual pickup once again, always about his relationship, and that's Patrick Surtain, who is probably the next closest, fastest guy in the field right now, at least to Achane, and in relation to him. So you can see he does get an angle, he does have an angle, but yet Achane keeps perceiving about where he is. And he, of course, he almost housed that one in order to put a little bit more on his highlights, right? Let's move to the other view of this, because this is the view where we can really gather, of course, most of our pickup. Now, again, we always want to be able to take in multiple views if and when we can, but we can really see more, not necessarily from Achane's perspective, even though I would love to have either eye tracking glasses on him here to see what he's seeing when he's seeing it. But also, like, we can kind of begin to speculate. We can try to put ourselves into Achane's movement system, even though none of us have his very special action capabilities, right? Or very few do. I certainly do not. But you can start to see, again, as I usually talk about, let's look at the stripe on his helmet, right? Again, a speedster typically looking for opening and closing, emerging or decaying affordances, opening and closing gaps, right? But of course, there are going to be bodies moving into those gaps, and you are going to have to be still sensitive and attuned to where they might be and how it is changing. And you can see, because he's able to take in some information as to how it might be changing momentarily, defenders entering the space, look at how he changes his movement behaviors and where his path is taking him. Cool, special stuff, mature stuff, evolved stuff in Devon Achane's movement toolbox. And then we see it in relation to that, right? Always connected, or at least more perceptually connected, or so we can speculate as to what might be coming, what might be out there, and how it is that one could act in relation to it. You guys know I got to get happy with my telestrator here. And then we see one of the nastiest moves that you could potentially see. And of course, I couldn't pause it on there, even though I got the still shot as our featured picture, as it has been trending online in many places. Let's see if I can get it here as he moves into this, finds his balance, and then from right to left, it's more of like, I mean, I don't even know. Look, if you look at this base of support that that Achane has at this type of high speed, this type of outside foot power jump cut, speed cut, it's a hybrid cut in special problems, special situations, special affordances. Call for special action or movement strategies. And that's what we see right there from Devon Achane. Really cool, really special stuff. And we're going to be able to see it from One more angle here already in the play. And again, we want to always speculate. Where is the player picking up? What are they attuned to? And what are they adapting around? That's one of our key questions that we want to always ask. And then not only that, but how are they solving that problem in their own unique and authentic way? And we are finding that from Achane here. Watch this now from this angle, right there. That jump cut, crossover, power cut, whatever we want to call it, because it is truly a hybrid, especially at that type of high speed. Very, very cool to see from a guy that I would have thought by just looking at the numbers is nothing but a speedster. But he proved me wrong on Sunday, and he's probably going to continue to prove a lot of people wrong throughout the 2023 season based on some of the things that we saw from him. Like I said, it's not only about right here, okay? It's not only about being fast in a straight line, but it is about being explosive, but maintaining an ownership speed that matches the movement problem. We found it from Christian McCaffrey in week 1. We found it from Bijan Robinson in week 2. And we see it from Achane in week 3. And he's the fastest one of those 3. And so if we're finding it in that ownership speed, I think what we would say or find that we can create learning opportunities where we are guiding and shaping a player's intentions, meaning how they might aim to act based on their own unique action capabilities, right? So to give the keys to the car over to the player, then to continue to set up really alive contextual movement problems that would ask him to solve problems very similar to what we saw or found. It isn't rocket science, as I've highlighted numerous times here at Football Beyond the Stats. But what we do want to do is not necessarily always encourage a guy to move at their fastest speed. We're trying to allow them to move at the fastest speed that is needed based on the movement problem and the emerging and decaying opportunities to act, aka the affordances. It's there, guys and gals, that I believe that we can equip players with game speed, football speed in this case, more of a holistic, integrated movement problem solving process that is fit to the peculiar and individual movement problem. Hopefully that makes some sense. If it doesn't, I'm going to put a link to a paper that myself and colleagues, Tyler Yerby from the team at Emergence, as well as Keith Davids, skill acquisition legend, a paper that we wrote and had published earlier in 2023 that might start to uncover how we might be able to educate intentions, but also help get athletes more perceptually tuned and sensitive to those opportunities, and then ways of acting in very alive fashions. So look for that in the show notes below and in the comment section. If you guys like what we're doing here at Football Beyond the Stats this year, really trying to highlight a player's form of life this week with Achane and his extraordinary speed capabilities, please give me a thumbs up. Put a comment in the section below. Let me know if something doesn't make any sense or something doesn't make complete sense. And I will do my best to explain it for you, not only in the comment section, but also in subsequent weeks. I appreciate each one of you guys kind of going along this deep dive down this rabbit hole of Achane versus the Denver Broncos and what the Miami Dolphins did, their record-setting performance in Week 3 in the National Football League 2023 season. This has been Sean Mishka, the Movement Miyagi. I will talk to you guys next week in Week 4. Thanks so much.